Paper is contradictory. It's fragile, at the same time it lasts for centuries.
Paper is my medium of expression.
I think it's really interesting to use the A4 paper for making art because it's such a common material which we all know and all consume in really huge amounts every day.
The latest trend that's creating an unexpected storm in the art circles is paper cuttings. Like a familiar old friend you haven't met in a long time, paper cuttings or paper cutouts are back and have undergone a surprising transformation.
I think the fact that I didn't learn traditional paper cutting from a master or somebody like that I just stumbled upon this medium like an accident almost and started doing it, and I didn't have any notion of, oh, I'm supposed to do this or that. I didn't have that. I just thought, okay, cutting is cool. I'm gonna make imagery with cutting.
With zero inhibitions and a fresh eye, Kako Ueda embarked on a journey of self-exploration through her paper cuttings. Together, Kako Ueda, Peter Callison and Takaki Kihara stand for the new breed of paper cutters who have harnessed their imagination and created works of art far beyond conventional paper cuttings. Based in Copenhagen, Peter breathes magic into his paper creations. Somewhat poetic and whimsical, these paper creations all have a story to tell.
Started off working with cardboard, making kind of quite rough structures and things, sculptures out of cardboard. And then at some point I actually discovered the A4 paper. On one hand people know it, on the other hand it's almost without value. And that I think gives me a big freedom to me to create even bigger stories and dramas within this small sheet of paper.
Going back in time, traditional paper cuttings originated from the Far East and from Japan. Today, we have Kakaki and Kako, who have expanded upon the traditional concept of using paper as a medium for art.
I'd like to show you a new technique about 180-degree open type. The concept is the same, made by just one sheet of paper. This part, cut and fold and joint center line. This work can be folded into this.
Takaki may be based in Japan, while Kako in America, but they are linked not only by their cultural roots, but also by their flair for creating masterpieces from a material as common as paper.
As a Japanese, I grew up looking at beautiful paper stuff, you know, like origami paper or things made with paper. But that probably got into me naturally, and I'm using that sensibility to make my art.
Sharing a similar sensitivity for paper, Takaki brings structural blueprints of buildings to life in his architecturally inspired paper cuttings.
When I went to bookstore to find an architecture book, because my job is a structural engineer, so at that time I found a very interesting book titled Origamic Architecture. Origami is a very famous paper craft, but at that time nobody knows origamic architecture. So I started to make many works. And then I got hooked.
While Takaki's work embodies modernism, Peter's creations seem to live in an idyllic fantasy world of their own.
Earlier, I think my work was very much about this meeting or confrontation between dream and reality, and it often came out as a kind of a tragic comic thing. Whereas now I think it's more about actually that there is actually reality within the dream, that actually make the dream come through somehow, that the impossible actually is possible.
In his signature playfulness, Peter often works with positive and negative shapes. His paper cutouts are typically still attached to their own negatives.
flat piece of paper and then turn it into something 3D. So there is this transformation of something 2D into 3D, which I almost find as a magical process.
A lot of thought and painstaking craftsmanship goes into Peter's work, but he manages to give his work an air of simplicity. Often, viewers are drawn into the drama unfolding from the sheets of plain paper before realizing how intricate the paper cutouts are.
I made this one called Birds Trying to Escape Its Drawing, which is literally, I cut out actually it's a flat one, but just on a flat piece of paper. And they're all in different stages trying to escape their drawing, but none of them actually succeeds. And I guess that's quite typical for my work, that there's this, you can say, vertical direction in my work.
Peter expresses the impossible and romantic longing for ascension towards the sublime or spiritual by a vertical direction in his work. He makes us question if we can ever attain what we strive for.
I make a cutout in paper, and then often the cutout kind of leaves its image or leave the paper, and in that transformation it often becomes kind of alive.
While Peter's works lean towards the romantic and melancholic, Kako's creations reveal a strong contemporary style, fusing intriguing themes with nature.
This piece is called Memento Mori, Thinking of Death. At least this part, and it's still going. And actually, I want to make a life part here. So to contrast life and death. Contrast, or maybe showing that they're together, cyclical. This death part, it's obviously a skull, and it's a human skull made of a lot of natural things.
Insects, flowers, butterflies, and plants breathe life into this ominous human skull.
In some ways, this death figure is full of life because all these things are kind of very busy. And I don't think it's like a solemn death and quiet. It's very actually alive death, and I like that.
The complexity, intricacy, and intrigue of Kako's works won her admirers and buyers from all over. And naturally, one of her biggest supporters is the owner of the gallery representing her.
Kako's unique for a number of reasons. As a dealer, you try to anticipate what an artist is capable of, and you do that by talking to them, by listening to what they're interested in and what they're thinking about. Obviously, the cutout is, it's a signature. The labor-intensive, the focus that she has is extraordinary. But it's also her understanding of its potential.
Moving away from the earlier symmetrical works, Kako constantly explores new dimensions within her paper cuts.
Her use of imagery, one image morphing into another image, personal imagery, autobiographical material. I mean, that's incredible. It shows a range, a reach, it shows a curiosity and engagement with the world, but it also shows a kind of fearlessness. Like, she's not worried about, well, can I use this image or that image? She's pushing herself all the time.
Kako is one of the 24 artists represented in this prestigious gallery in artsy Chelsea, New York.
This is one of my early pieces that I started cutting asymmetrically. And it's a new try, and I started putting color too, which is different. I wanted to make my own version of Tree of Life.
A recurring exploration of the relationship between life and death, Kako's Tree of Life expresses her belief that life and death is cyclical.
When I do big pieces, I guess the big pieces tend to become like environment, and it has some effect on your body because you always compare yourself to your body to something you look at. And in that comparison, if something is as big as you or bigger, you get this different feeling from it. And I think that I can't do it with smaller pieces.
Taking on a more rigid form than Kako, Takaki's work involves building what is known as origamic architecture.
The concept of origamic architecture is to make, using just one sheet of paper, buildings and structures, and it's collapsible.
Although paper art is considered as a traditional form of craft in Japan, Takaki's influences are undeniably contemporary.
My profession is structural engineer. Naturally, I have interested in building and structures. I have strong interest in beautiful buildings.
As far as he is concerned, his unique brand of origamic architecture defies all time period and restrictions.
When I choose subject, size is not important, height is not important, the shape is important. If shape is very beautiful, I inspired to make origamic architecture.
With an amalgamation of a high but affordable standard of living, a vibrant art scene, a smorgasbord of fine cuisine and low crime rates, Copenhagen has been regarded as one of the most livable cities of the world. Amongst those who set up home here is Peter Callison.
This place actually is called Fabrikken for Kunst og Design, which translated in English means the factory for art and design. And it's we are a group of, I think there's about 50 artists and designers who's got studios here, and it's run as a foundation. The buildings actually belongs to the local government.
In such a conducive environment, artists and designers of different disciplines collaborate on a regular basis. As an artist, Peter had his work showcased in exhibitions and publications all over the world, but it is the creative process which gives him the most gratification.
The most enjoyable or fun, if you may, thing about doing my work, I think, is the actual sketching process where I sit and try out things. I think that's quite interesting. The really interesting thing about art, that you have this the possibility of creating an idea out of nowhere and suddenly make it into a specific physical thing.
Even as his works inspire a whole generation of artists, Peter himself is prone to influences of his own.
I once saw a paper cut by Hans Christian Andersen, our famous fairy tale writer. Besides writing, he actually also did a lot of paper cuts and as well as collages, and especially the collages, I think they were extreme ahead of his time. But to him it was just a play. I mean, obviously he didn't see himself in a fine art context.
In a country where tradition is highly prized, Takaki belongs to a group of contemporary artists who are making their presence felt in Japan. From this group, Takaki stands out for his eclectic collection of origamic architecture.
This is the Tokyo Tower, very famous structure, and then the tallest in Japan. And when I finished this work, I sent to the son of the designer of the tower. He gave me a letter. He was very happy to get the card. And then he gave me an autograph on card.
This piece is called Nature's Maze, and I'm almost done now actually. And it's supposed to look like a landscape of floating ice flakes on water, like a kind of very romantic big landscape. And in each corner I'm gonna make here a man and over here a woman, and I'm gonna erect them. And the reason why it's called the maze is that there is actually a connection between them. So the idea is that the viewer has to kind of find the way between them. Of course, it also has to do with relationships and how difficult that can be sometimes.
While Peter flourishes at home, Kako took a leap of faith and found herself in the land of opportunities, New York.
The age 15, I came to the United States to attend high school. And then I got into School of Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. It's an art school. I went back to Japan, worked for a while, and I did art on my own, but I was working just to, make a living there. And then about 29, the end of 20s, I thought I can't go on like this. I want to change. I want to go back to the States. I want to go to New York.
Moving to the Big Apple proves to be a quintessential decision for Kako's career as an artist. Upon acceptance at Pratt's for the master's program, Kako is back on track again.
I think everywhere, but especially in New York, you have to know people and you have to, talk to people and express your desires. Like right before I was graduating from graduate school, I kept telling people, I'm graduating, I would like to get a job, let me know if you know anything, and that worked.
She may have moved to New York, but the Japanese in Kako lives through her work.
I'm cutting a butterfly which goes into a memento mori piece, the big skull piece. And I like butterflies because they go through metamorphosis, distinct metamorphosis, which is very interesting to watch. And that kind of symbolizes our metamorphosis and what we go through, even though it's more subtle than butterflies.
With a special affinity towards butterflies, Kako recalls that a series of drawings she did when she was 3 were butterflies.
So I don't know, I'm going backwards.
Throughout her career, Kako has created works that belong to dreams and nightmares. Nothing is too difficult for her, except having to pick a favorite from among her own work.
I don't have a favorite. Every time I'm working on one piece, that's my favorite at that moment, because I'm really into the process of, drawing and cutting, and it requires a lot of attention and concentration. And then when it's done, I'm kind of like detached from it. I mean, I'm happy it's done, but then I move on to the next one. And I'm just excited about the next piece, how to make that piece alive.
In her time away from home, Kako's work has taken on the role of the link with her and her motherland. Constantly setting himself up for new challenges, Takaki has famously recreated world-famous icons like the Sydney Opera House, among others.
My favorite work is Sydney Opera House. This is a world-famous building. This building is very special. Curved line and curved surface. Very beautiful shape. Luckily, I could get the blueprint from the Japanese architect. He was concerned with this project, so I could make this very beautiful building. Sydney Opera House took me 6 months to complete. It's many experimentation, trial and error, and then finally I could get a very beautiful shape. When I showed the work to the Japanese architect, he is an assistant of the main architect. He was very happy and surprised.
Even though he has achieved great success in his field, he has no intentions of slowing things down and taking it easy.
For me, origami architecture is very fun because of very challenging. Just imagination, we can change a three-dimensional object from just one sheet of paper.
What he creates might only be replicas, but Takaki's works are no less versions of the real McCoys. With the amount of talent evident through his work, we think Takaki might have more than just a building or two left in him yet.
I like many of Takaki's work, but my favorite design is Stardust, because the shape is very beautiful. It is like a miracle to see many stars from one piece of paper.
If art is a food for the soul, we never have to go hungry again. Not when the likes of Peter, Kako and Takaki continue to create inspiring works that push and challenged their own limits.
This exhibition is actually called Himmelrum. It's a Danish word. You could also say Himmelraum in German, the same word for sky and heaven. It's a children's exhibition. The idea was that I should create an exhibition which was supposed to be like interactive, so there definitely should be something which the children could play around with or interact with. But the more as I planned, I also realized it was important for me that it also became a really art exhibition, not only just a playground. Behind me is this tree which are made out of just paper, and in the bottom you can see like small devils climbing up from the underground, and in the middle there are like human figures trying to climb up the tree. Some of them are dragged down by devils, others are helped up by angels. If you climb this hill and look into these holes which are placed around on the hill, you are looking into the underground or into the inferno or into hell in a way, because there are different scenarios. Over there, there's one where some some devils has caught some angels. There are some big spiders. There are also some skeletons.
For every piece of art they create, Peter, Kako and Takaki afford viewers a telescopic view into their personal world.
Origami architecture is adventure between two-dimensional and three-dimensional worlds.
I'm trying to push the boundaries of paper and trying to do different things in each new piece.
I think it's interesting to stretch the paper to see how far I actually can get the paper and what I can make from a small sheet of paper.